Hello, beautiful woman and entrepreneur. This is Blair, Rhianna, and welcome to this episode of the Aligned Entrepreneur Podcast. This is episode 5, so all the show notes as well as any links that I share can be found at blairrhianna.com/5. Now, if you've spent any time on social media or just, out in the world, you'll know that manifesting is so hot right now. But what exactly is manifesting? How does it actually work? And most importantly, how can you make it work for you in your life and business? Well, in today's episode, I'm wanting to demystify the concept of manifesting and the law of attraction, and also explain exactly why all your positive thinking and your positive affirmations are not producing the results you want in your life and business. Sound pretty helpful? Awesome. Let us jump in. Welcome to the Aligned Entrepreneur Podcast, the place to be for your weekly fix of divine feminine wisdom, empowered business mindset, and practical spirituality to help you break free from the hustle, find your flow, and grow your online business on your own terms, the feminine way. I'm your host, Blair Rhianna, and it is time to get aligned. So one thing that I've noticed about the spiritual entrepreneur community and just the spiritual community in general is that often the language around manifestation, attraction, and communing with the universe, communing with spirit can often be a little bit wishy-washy. It gives the sense of these things being really mystical and esoteric, and because of this, I see many people handing away their power, thinking that the universe, spirit, God, goddess, energy, whatever you want to call it, exists outside of themselves, and therefore they and their business success and their lives are subject to those external forces. And on the other end of the spectrum, I see so many people using the idea of manifestation and the law of attraction as a means of spiritual bypassing, by thinking that if they just think positive, if they just put it out there, then what they want will miraculously show up without them having to do any of the work to remove the internal emotional blockages and limiting beliefs that have prevented the thing that they want becoming a natural part of their reality in the first place. So in this episode, I want to take these concepts out of the ethereal realm and ground it back into the practical realm to bridge the gap between spirituality and science, so you can really deepen your understanding of this area and place the power of your own success back in your own hands. So, where do we even begin? Well, if you hang out on social media, and this is a given, I'm assuming that you do, then you've probably seen plenty of social media memes and inspirational quotes using phrases like energy flows where intention goes. But what does this actually mean? To answer that, we're going to talk science for a moment. But before I do, know that if you don't necessarily see yourself as a sciencey person or you're a bit intimidated by it, please don't be. I myself was never a science kind of girl, much more of a humanities chick if I do say so myself. In fact, any mention of science or mathematics used to give me flashbacks of mental blanks and sweaty palms and anxiety attacks during my 9-year exams. So, safe to say, I wouldn't put myself in the science category. But it was only until my mid-20s when I began to work with these principles in my own life, and I became a coach, mentor, kinesiologist, and an energy medicine practitioner, working with over 100 women, that I developed a very in-depth understanding of the female brain and our belief systems, our sabotages, our energy, and our thought patterns. So neuroscience, neuroplasticity, belief systems, quantum physics, manifesting, they're all huge passion areas of mine, and I love to nerd out on this stuff. But what I really enjoy most is taking these ideas and making them easy to understand and relevant and applicable to our lives. So you don't have to consider yourself a science mind to understand these concepts. You just have to have a desire to expand your understanding and challenge your existing ideas, which, if you're in business, is something you're regularly doing anyway. Hashtag steep learning curve, am I right? Okay, so let's break this down a little bit then, because in the past, much of our understanding of the world came from the old school classical physics way of thinking that argued that all matter is governed by universal principles, such as the law of gravity, which states what goes up, must come down. However, quantum physics now teaches us that these universal principles only apply to the physical external world, not the internal world, which is the world of human perception and conscious experience. Quantum physics has introduced us to the idea that how something appears in the outside world is dependent on how the observer perceives it, and that each person's perception is informed by their own unique beliefs and past experiences, so that no two people experience the same thing in the exact same way, because everything is being filtered through their own unique lens. So where your conscious awareness goes, energy naturally follows and then takes form. Therefore, matter only takes form when it is being observed. What this means is how you perceive something, the beliefs you assign to it, and the attention you give it is literally what makes it real, which of course gave science to the belief that we are the creators of our own reality. And this idea is, not new. It's now finally being kind of backed by science. But shamans and spiritual teachers, they have been talking about this concept for a very, very, very long time, that our external world is a reflection of our internal world. So without your intention, which involves directing your attention towards something, that something fails to exist. Energy takes shape depending on where your focus and intention is directed. It follows that focus. To give you a practical example of this, I'm going to share with you the study that led scientists to discover this phenomena and gave birth to quantum physics, which has permanently changed the way that we now understand our world. So strap in, because this is where we're getting geeky. In order to study light, physicists had to study the structure of atoms, which are the building blocks of the universe. Everything, you, me, the device you're listening on, the trees outside the window, they're all made up of atoms. More specifically though, physicists wanted to study the electrons and the protons that exist at a subatomic level. Subatomic meaning smaller than the atom or occurring within the atom itself. Now traditionally in physics, it was always believed that everything followed what are called classical laws that calculate predetermined outcomes. For example, we use classical physics to predict where a baseball will land when it's thrown. However, when they went down to a subatomic level, they found that the electron didn't behave according to these classical laws, and that rather than the electron appearing where they calculated it would, it instead appeared where they thought it would. This means simply by observing the electron, this altered the electron's behavior in ways that could not be measured or predetermined. You see, without an observer, electrons exist in the infinite wave of possibility, meaning that it could be anywhere and anything. But as soon as it was observed, it took form relative to what form the observer thought it would. It took form based on their intention, where they were placing their attention and therefore directing that energy out of the realm of infinite possibility and down into a specific form. It only appeared because it was being observed. And this goes for all matter in the universe. It takes form depending on how we think it will take form. And this form is entirely dependent on our own perceptions of reality, which are built upon our past experiences, our past memories, and our past emotions. Isn't that just mind-blowing? Isn't that just crazy? And this is why so many of us get trapped in the same old cycles of attracting the same old experiences, be it accidents, ill health, bad relationships, financial troubles. We are recreating experiences in our lives that verify our existing ideas and beliefs about the world, because those beliefs are creating the filter through which our attention moves, and then that directs the universe into manifest form. So in a nutshell, energy takes form based on where you are placing your intention. Energy flows where attention goes. So by changing your intention, meaning where you are placing your attention, you manifest a different kind of experience in your life rather than just recreating the same old thing again and again and again on autopilot. This is essentially the science behind the art of manifesting. That's how manifesting works. Essentially what happens is your intention places the blueprint. It gives the universe, gives universal force, gives life force, energy, God, universe, whatever you want to call it. It gives the blueprint. Your intention sets the blueprint that lets the universe know which form you want that to take, so that the universe can then filter that information down into your blueprint so it can manifest into your desired form. So let's look at a real life example of this. Say you want to go to Hawaii. You wanted it so badly. You want to go to Hawaii. You thought about it all the time. You set your screensaver at work to a photo of the beach. You spent your evenings Googling where you were going to stay and the sites that you would love to visit. Hawaii became so real in your mind that you could almost feel the sand between your toes and the sea breeze in your hair. You could just feel the margarita in your hand at the beach. It became so incredibly real for you. You embodied that experience. Even though you knew you didn't have the money, it didn't deter you. You just knew that Hawaii was on the cards one way or another. You didn't emotionally invest in how your present reality was presenting itself. You didn't emotionally invest in, what your bank account was doing. You didn't emotionally invest in how it was going to happen. Instead, your emotional investment went into the reality that you were wanting to create, which was being in Hawaii. Then a few weeks later, your best friend calls you saying that she's won a radio competition with a trip for two for all expenses paid to Hawaii, and she wanted to gift you the extra ticket. Hawaii became so real for you, you placed such a concrete intention on it and had dedicated so much of your energy to that trip, it was channeled into form in a way that you least expected. And, the reason why this is such like a detailed kind of description is because this is exactly what happened to a client of mine when we released her abundance blocks. We widened her capacity for receiving and we redirected where her emotional energy was going so it was anchoring into what she wanted rather than subconsciously recreating what she didn't. And this sounds pretty simple, right? Think about what you want and what you want will come towards you. Yeah, unfortunately, that isn't actually kind of how it works. That's kind of a very big misconception with manifesting and the law of attraction. We think that thinking is enough. But unfortunately, this is only half of the equation. Your thoughts are the projector, okay? They send the signal out. They put it out there, so to speak. But ultimately, it's your emotions that magnetize the experience back to you. So thinking positively is not enough if subconsciously you are holding a negative belief that is rejecting the positive thought that you are thinking. For example, saying to yourself, I am abundant, I'm abundant, I'm abundant, when every time you look at your bank account you go into cold sweats, or every time you go to catch up with your friends for coffee, all you're doing is talking about how you can only afford the coffee, you can't do lunch. Like, it's about looking where your emotional investment is going. The thoughts alone are not enough. Because your thoughts are only half the equation. It's ultimately the emotion and how well you embody your desired emotion that determines the quality of the manifestation that you are calling in. Because the thing is that we are all manifestors. We are manifesting all the time. It's not about whether or not you can or cannot manifest, because I promise you are doing it. It's just a matter of how intentionally you are manifesting and how consciously you are creating your desired outcomes. Because it can be really easy to recreate what you don't want simply because it's running in the background as a subconscious emotional program, which is then magnetizing those negative experiences back to you because that's what your system is running. That's your vibrational blueprint that you're putting out to the universe, even though consciously you're trying to think the opposite and trying to stay positive. Because just to think it is only half of the process, and you can actually create the exact opposite of what you want by trying to force yourself to think something that you fundamentally do not believe. This creates an internal conflict where you are subconsciously rejecting to the exact same extent to which you are desiring. It creates an opposing energetic force where you are pushing away as much as you are wanting. Okay, so it's two forces working against one another because two core elements of your being, thought and emotion, are not on the same page. This is ultimately what a self-sabotage is. And through my years of working with clients, this has been at the root of the vast majority of my clients' suffering. The pain of wanting something while also being terrified of having it, or feeling like it's not safe to have it, or believing that they're not worthy of the very thing that they so deeply crave. And these internal conflicts and self-sabotages are what keep you stuck in a state of wanting, which is the opposite of the state of having. Manifestation works when your subconscious is aligned towards what you are consciously desiring, and the two are working together, which makes you a vibrational match to the desired outcome that you are magnetizing towards you. This creates a state of having, where you are emotionally, mentally, physically, and energetically embodying the experience as if it has already happened. And that's the key. Whereas being in a state of wanting suggests that you do not have the very thing that you want, because otherwise you wouldn't be in a state of wanting, you'd be in a state of having. Therefore, your intention, your focus is locked onto the wanting. And because that's what your intention is amplifying and projecting, because what you focus on grows, that's what the universe manifests. More reasons for you to stay in a state of wanting. which is why in life and business and love, it can feel like your goals are just constantly out of reach, no matter how hard you push, struggle, and strive. You may have a big financial goal that you're working towards in your business, or a certain amount of savings that you're wanting to have in the bank, and each time you get close to it, something happens. You'll have a fender bender in the parking lot, or your bank account will get hacked. Like, something will happen that just constantly keeps your goal just that little bit out of reach. And if you look at your business, if your business isn't where you want it to be at the moment, it's possible that's why. Something is going on there that is subconsciously repelling the very thing that you are trying to create. So if you're wanting to call in higher quality experiences into your life, start to train your body to embody the experience of already having that experience. And if your mind brings up resistances to that, or you can feel your body go into a physical state of repelling that vibration, such as feeling anxious, feeling your heart close, feeling physically agitated or restless, or your mind erupts into a chaotic mess of doubt, excuses, and negativity, then get support from someone who works with the emotional energetic body and the subconscious mind to help you clear those blocks, or set to work on clearing them yourself if you have the tools in your toolkit that can help you do that. But to be honest, when you're working with your own belief systems, particularly if they're connected to a survival emotion or your core sense of identity, you can spend a lot of time struggling to see the forest through your own mental trees. So getting support early can really fast track your results and save you a whole bunch of emotional energy and frustration. And this is why I'm not a huge fan of positive thinking just on its own, because often it becomes a way of bypassing our own emotional experience and denying the lessons those challenging experiences are here to teach you in order to evolve your soul to the next level of receiving. Because when life is wanting to give you a lesson, when life is wanting you to understand something and you are refusing to see that wisdom, it will shake you. That whisper becomes a shout and life will shake you awake, and you will notice that the resistance in your life becomes greater and greater and greater, and the lesson escalates and escalates because the life is trying to get your attention. But you're too busy trying to think positive or trying to pretend that the problem's not there, that it has no choice but to amplify to get your attention. Because if something is surfacing for you to release, but you keep pushing through it or ignoring it because it clashes with the positive thoughts you're trying to force yourself to think, then you're going to keep going around in circles. So if you've been thinking positively and saying affirmations until you turn blue in the face and nothing seems to be shifting, here's what I'd suggest you try out instead. So what I'd suggest is let yourself imagine what you want. Really make that image vivid in your mind and let it play out. And at the same time, notice your body's natural response to that image. Is it moving towards or is it moving away? Are you noticing any pain in your body, any stagnation, any tightness? And then be present with that emotion. Let it bring up all of the internal BS, all the thoughts, doubts, and sabotages that surface when you truly let yourself listen to your own internal experience. Because I can guarantee you, this stuff, it's running in the background anyway. It's happening anyway. All you're doing is shining the light of your awareness on it, which instantly puts it back in your sphere of control, because you can't heal what you aren't prepared to see. So let yourself get real with your own experience so you know exactly where you need to focus your healing in order to shift that old energy, release those old beliefs, and then get your mind and body and soul aligned on the same vibration of what you're wanting to attract into your life. And the trick here is to not spend too much time, sitting in the shit, as it were. Once you know what you're dealing with, try not to overly invest in the emotion of it, because remember, the emotion is what is the magnifier. The emotion is what is the magnet, okay? Emotions are the magnet. So you can look at what's going on in your own mind, you can observe your own negative thought patterns and your own resistances, but as soon as you emotionally invest in it, that's where you begin to get into some dangerous territory. Because that's when it begins to amplify and that's where it begins to anchor in the body. So instead, observe your own experience and then ask yourself, what do I need to do to release this? And then get to work on doing the work. That's how you turn your awareness into your own empowerment, rather than letting the stuff become the reason why you can't move forward in your life and business. Because remember, the thoughts send the vibration out. It's the emotion that brings it back to you. So as soon as you can get those two in alignment, as soon as you can get your head and your heart to communicate in the same way, as soon as you can get your subconscious and your conscious mind to be projecting towards the same outcome, you instantly fall into alignment with that outcome, and it's only a matter of time until it shows up in your life. That is universal law. That is the art of attraction. And that is how manifesting works. So there you have it. My no fluff breakdown of how manifesting actually works. So you can take these ideas out of the whimsical and back into the practical to start getting aligned towards the dreams and desires you have in your life and business. Because I want that for you. I really, really, really want that for you. You have the power to create incredible things when you give yourself permission to get out of your own way. The world needs you, but you've got to meet the universe halfway sometimes. You've got to be putting in the work to get there yourself. And sometimes the work is doing the work to get out of your way. It's not about doing more, it's about doing less. And now that you have an understanding of how all of this works, you can stop waiting for miracles and instead become the miracle in your own life. I really hope that you've enjoyed this episode. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. I know that manifesting is such a curious little topic, so I would love to hear what your opinion is. So jump on over to the blog at blairrhianna.com/5, and down the bottom of the show notes you'll find a little area where you can leave me a comment, because I'd love to hear your thoughts. I'd love to open up the conversation and answer any questions that you have on this topic. So until next time, thank you for joining me for this week's episode. I'm Blair Rhianna, and I cannot wait to see you shine your light in the way that only you can. Bye for now.